Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Shouting into the Void, where me and Liam have taken time off from our Animal Crossing experiences this week to watch another episode of Doctor Who.
Very reluctantly.
Yeah, it took some getting away from the Switches this week, I'll admit. This is the series, the show where the two of us go through New Who and review the episodes. We rewatch them and then discuss how we feel, which can often be different to how we thought we would feel, which may be the case this week for myself.
And for myself, but maybe the opposite way.
Oh, that's good then.
Which is nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
good
not for you, but
yeah. And it's strange to think that we are now at the end of series 3.
We've done a lot of these,
We have done 3 whole series of this.
Yeah, so that's like 41 or so episodes we've done.
That's basically 3 years worth of Doctor Who we've reviewed so far. Since the start of the year, which is great. And I'd say, we've been enjoying it most of the time. There's that blip in series 2 where we might have been a bit, but what can happen?
True.
Never mind. So we have made it to the end of series 3. It is the third part of the 3-part finale, and it's the last of the Time Lords. This one.
I wonder what's going to happen.
Not a lot. Well, technically not a lot. This one picks up. Well, it doesn't pick up from where we last left it, because it's a whole year later. We miss a whole year, so that means it's technically 2010. Is that right?
Sure.
Because this came out. This came out in 2007, but it's already a year ahead because of Rose, so it's 2008. So it'd be 2009.
Right. Okay.
So it's 2 years ahead of its air date.
Right.
So technically at this point, the Doctor is supposed to be on Mars. But he's not. And this one sees Martha coming back from her travels across the globe that we don't see, to try and find a weapon to kill the Master. It sees her family trapped on board the Valiant, trying to escape. And it sees the Doctor being useless.
Old.
I mean, he doesn't do it like he's. I'll wait. But
just you wait for the last 10 minutes. Oh boy.
Yeah, he's stuck there, and the Master is reigning supreme. He is building some big spaceships. He's gonna travel across space and kill everyone because why not? Is basically his plan, which I think is always the Master's plan. I'm gonna destroy things because I can destroy things. But hey, it's fine. Sometimes. In this, we have 3 positives and 3 negatives ish, and we will go through them. But first of all, what are your overall thoughts on the episodes?
Well, I think I said last week I don't remember a lot of what actually happened, really, outside of like the I can't decide dancing scene and stuff like that. So I wasn't really sure how I'd feel about it. But I liked it more than the standard drums. I was actually surprised at how much I enjoyed this one. It does kind of fall apart for me, I think, near the end. But there's a lot of things that might, and I do have a lot of like nitpicky things more than anything. Well, it's not. I suppose it's not really nitpicky. It's just I feel like there's a lot of people that don't do anything, and I feel like for a 3-parter, there's a lot to get to this moment where it's like, and none of it actually happened, and people didn't really do a lot anyway. I'm a bit like, but I think in terms of like companions and companion exits, I think they really shines with that. I think there's some great performances in there. I do think the Master's a lot of fun. It feels tonally like a nice end to the series in terms of I think Martha maybe more than anything else. But yeah, overall I did kind of enjoy it more than I thought I would. It's not it is probably my least favorite of the finales we've had so far still, because I do think it peaked with Utopia for me, but I will say I was very much enjoying it for like the first 40 or so minutes, and then I was a bit like but yeah, I pleasantly surprised myself at how much I enjoyed this one, so that's something.
Yeah, aren't you lucky?
So I feel bad because you always said how much you liked this finale.
To be fair, I mean, like I think I've probably been too harsh because I was probably looking at it more critically this time around. But it was kind of like I have some issues with it, and there was some things that I just kept noticing that took me out of it, that sort of let it down a bit more for me. And there are obviously issues with how it ends. And it sort of got to the end. I was like, oh yeah, there's a Martha's leaving in this one as well. And I was like, oh yeah, that was just like thrown on to the end. It's like, oh yeah, bye. Oh, okay. And yeah, I think what sort of annoys me about this episode is, and we'll come on to it, is that it tells us more interesting things than it shows us, I think. Which is unfortunate, but we'll come on to that. I mean, it's by no means do I think it's like the worst thing ever, but against what I was expecting, it did fall a bit low. I think for me, it is worse than last week's.
Okay.
And I mean, again, I've probably been a bit harsh in my ratings, but we'll come on to that. But
it's how you feel. It's how you feel.
I know, and it's not, it's not for the people. It's not because of the people that are in it. I think the majority of the main cast are pretty good in their roles, but there are just some things that I wish there were more of, or actually less of. And they all come together, and it just sort of dragged it down a little bit, which is a shame, but it happens, especially when we are looking at it in this sort of more retrospective style, really. But it's fine. We'll come on to my issues, and maybe we'll decide I am being too harsh, but it is what it is. But before we get to the negatives and why I've rated it as I have, we do the positives. So what is your first positive of Last of the Time Lords?
My first positive is Best Girl Martha Jones / Stream Regimen. For me, she was kind of the shining star of this one. I really enjoyed a lot of her arc. And I know we see her again, but like an ending for her being like the main companion arc, and her just like choosing to leave and being like, you know what, fuck you. I have a family to look after now. I really liked that. I thought that was quite fun. And a different kind of departure. It needed to be very different from Rose's, obviously, because that was all super dramatic and tragic and everything. So I like that they did something very different with it, and it was just a very kind of classic-esque style exit, really, for a companion being like, I'm just going to leave, bye. So I like that she really took ownership with that. The long game she had to kind of play. Sorry to bring up that episode title, but having to travel around the world telling this story, and that all coming together, stuff like that, returning home, things like Professor Doherty and stuff, she had to know all of that in advance. It just showed the strength and resilience to her, I think, and that she spent a whole year on her own, and she's truly capable of basically doing anything at this point. So I really enjoyed kind of the resolution to her little character arc in this one. I'm glad it's not the last we see of her, that's for sure. I really do think she's fantastic, and I really love Martha. So I thought this was a really nice kind of, for now, send off for her as being like the core companion in the show. She had a lot of great moments, I personally feel, and particularly like the whole, the goodbye scene. I did like that she then went back in and was like, this is why I'm actually leaving, because I would never look at anyone else if I stay with you. Just taking ownership of her life. I really liked that. I think it was a cool, positive message, I guess, for people. Maybe if you're in a situation that you don't want to be in, you need to fucking leave. And she had the strength to do that, which I thought was really cool. So I like that it wasn't a companion ripped away from the Doctor, and it's not what they wanted. I like that you might just decide at some point, like, enough is enough, like, this isn't for me anymore. I think that would be more often than not the more realistic way a companion would leave if this was like an actual situation. So I really enjoyed Martha's whole journey in this episode.
Yeah, because I don't think before Graham and Ryan in the recent series that Martha was like the only New Who companion to leave for her own will. I think all the others were like killed or trapped somewhere. Obviously, Rose was parallel world. Donna's mind was wiped. Clara died technically and then went off. Amy and Rory trapped in the past. Bill died and then was converted to Cyberman and then went off. So a lot, everyone except Martha had pretty gruesome endings, I guess. But it's nice. It's nice to see that she effectively, not quite got a Sarah Jane Smith goodbye, but sort of in a similar vein as they can continue on and keep doing it, which although some companions have, this one was more natural, I guess. And Martha's goodbye is not in my top 3 positives, but it is on the edges. I just think it's really well done. Although I do think that it's a bit, I'm getting out, and here's why. This is me getting out, but here's my phone just so I can call you whenever. I was like,
especially given the fact that she'd already left once, thinking, right, that's my goodbye, and then she went back and gave him the phone. I was like,
come on, you keep in the option open, clearly. But I did like the goodbye, and I like the reason given for it. She has to take care of everyone except Leo, because Leo,
I enjoyed his 3 seconds of screen time and no lines in this episode. That's worth it.
Nothing. What's the point in him being there?
I have some fun facts about it, though.
Excellent. Right, I look forward to them. But yeah, I do think Martha is probably one of the better parts of the episode. Although she's not in my top 3. I do agree. So my sort of first one, it's the same as last week. It's John Sim as the Master.
Yeah, the Master's my second one.
Yes. I think, well, I've got technically 3 separate master points, so I'm just gonna
I can see
John
what you
Sim.
most enjoyed then.
yeah. Although one of the master points is outside the 3, so really it's only 2. But I'll stick with John Sim to start with, just because again I think he brings a lot to the role. He can easily switch between the angry, aggressive Time Lord to the charming, light-hearted man. Yeah, exactly. Where he's always like, oh, he's surrounded by armed guards and he's just taunting everyone. I was like, I love it. And when he like tiptoes into the room when the doctor's asleep in his cage in his dressing gown, I'm like, this is great.
There you go, Gramps.
Yeah,
little things up there.
Love it. So you know, I think he plays the role really, really well. Especially there's a number of moments which again I'll come on to later on, including his death, which I think is done really well. And yeah, as I've always said, I'm gutted that we don't get more of him in the show. Obviously, I was gifted a third opportunity when I thought he was long gone and we'd never see him again in series 10, which is great. So I think we've probably had enough John Sim Master now, and we won't get him back for a while. So to have in my opinion, all of his episodes be really good and he be really good in them is excellent. And this is, although the episode's not the best, he is definitely one of the standouts for it. My only sort of wish is that I wish he had more interactions with David Tennant properly than he does in this episode. But I just think he's a standout actor in this one, purely. Maybe it's because he doesn't have David Tennant to act against, so he has to give it a bit more, and also there's nobody really to take away from his presence, because he's only shares 2 scenes with Martha, the other main character. So
yeah, because he doesn't even talk to the main kind of group in the same room in the last episode until the last scene, is he? So
yeah, so I think maybe that kind of helps. But yeah, I think he's definitely, for me, the best part of the episode. So what is your second part?
My second is the Master.
Yay!
I mean, that music's great for the start. But I really enjoyed John Sim's performance in this one. I think he clearly is having a lot of fun. I would love to do the I can't decide thing. I think that'd be absolutely hilarious to do that. So just seeing, I think, did I actually put that as a negative? I don't really know. I did a bit of a note, but I feel like it was a really interesting idea to have a master who's won.
Yeah.
And like, this is just it. This is my victory. And I feel like they just don't go too far to be like, but now I have another master plan thing. I'm like, no, you've won, leave it. Yeah. I think that was kind of one of my thoughts that we can talk about some other time. But I liked seeing him just like settled as like a ruler and blah, 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 blah. It would have been cool to maybe see him get to that stage where he's like building up this empire. But I did like him kind of being in charge. I thought it was a really interesting idea to actually have him basically win the day until the last 12 minutes. So that was fun. And yeah, him like taunting the Jones family and killing Lucifer. Like, good on you for killing the devil. All
the
of
dogs
that.
did that. So
what?
Well, Rose did that.
Oh God, you're right. God, so many crossovers. Tom Ellis plays Lucifer in Lucifer.
Yeah, if you didn't know.
Confused. He played
Tom who plays Tom.
Tom as Tom, yes.
Yeah.
So there'll be people being like, well, And I've only seen one episode of Lucifer, so I don't even know what I'm talking about.
That guy wasn't in Toby. He wasn't Toby in.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
But yes. Anyway, The Master, I did very much enjoy. I did have a few like, so, for me, like, if you press that button, you kill yourself. That's one thing you'll never do. And then very next scene, he lets himself die anyway. I feel like he'd rather just die and take the Doctor with him and do that than just let himself die and that'd be it. But I guess it's like victory over the Doctor or something.
Yeah, I think he sees it as like he has then gone, aha, fuck you, you're gonna live alone. Yeah. I've made you sad, bitch, and dies. Yeah, I think is how he sees it.
I like that, but I just kind of feel like then don't do the previous bit. So I feel like that was just dragging out the plot line anyway, really, because it amounted to basically nothing. And also him changing his mind about killing Martha. Actually, no, the Doctor should witness you die. You fool! You fool! Kill her! You were about to kill her.
Yeah.
Then Lucifer came in and you killed him.
Stupidly came in.
Outside those little things, I did like a lot of the storytelling they had with him. Obviously, he ended up being very abusive towards his wife, which isn't explicitly stated, but it's obvious. So, that kind of dark side to him that I quite enjoyed them. And the fact that all happened off screen, I actually think is quite haunting in a way. You don't actually see him physically abuse her in this one, which was quite something. And obviously that then sets up him getting shot by her at the end. But yeah, I think John Simm's a lot of fun in this one. And I think the Master was definitely a very exciting character to kind of bring back. I think John Sim did great stuff with it. I do like kind of the ending. Shame it's negated about 5 minutes later when the woman picks up his ring. But I did really enjoy what he brought to the role. I remember loving him back then. I enjoyed him as much now. Really like him in the series 10 as well. And that's all I can remember him being in. But we can get to that eventually. But
about a year.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed him. I have a lot of nostalgia for this particular version of Jonathan's Master as well. I remember losing my shit in Asda when I finally found his action figure in there.
I had that.
I've been hunting it for months.
With the Topless.
I had two. So there were these two versions.
Sorry.
The Topless, I think you'll find, was a later release. But yeah, it was very exciting when I found him because I always enjoyed that version of the Master. So yeah, on that very long tangent, the Master was a lot of fun in this one. I liked kind of everything they were doing with him. John Sim clearly is having a lot of fun with it. I really enjoyed his performance. And yeah, he was another big aspect of why I loved the episode.
Yeah, fair enough. And sticking on that point, my second positive is the reintroduction to him in this episode. It is the I Can't Decide scene, which was often cut from Netflix. So if for some reason you only ever saw Doctor Who on Netflix and you're yet to see this scene, either go and YouTube it or find it elsewhere on DVDs.
I do have a fun fact about that, actually.
Interesting.
Because Netflix managed to put it back in.
Oh, there you
go. Just before they took it off.
Well, that's ridiculous. Well, there we go. So if you did miss it,
and I watched this episode on iPlayer, and all of Doctor Who, it says available for over a year again now. So
excellent. So
maybe because new episodes started, they've just kept it all.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Oh wait, it's popular. We'll put it back on.
Wait a minute. It was the most watched drama of the week.
No way.
We should probably keep that on there.
But yeah, I think this again. It plays into the whole. You can see how ridiculous he is and how over the top and exaggerated he is, even when he's like in control of the world. I also just like how the Doctor just doesn't care. He's just like sat dead-eyed, just taking it. Even when the Master like pushes him away at the end, and
I love that shot. He just like
to the wall. Yeah. I think that's great. It's one of the iconic scenes I think of Russell T Davies's Doctor Who. I'd say it's definitely one that a lot of people remember, purely because it's just so out of left field. Often music that people know isn't really used in the show that often. At least not as a main point. And this one is, so it stands out a bit more. And I also like that you can hear John Sim singing along to it as well underneath, which I think adds a level of like, it's not just he's listening to it and miming. He's actually doing it. The Master's actually singing along. The Master took the time to listen to Scissor Sisters for the year.
Literally, I could just imagine him doing that every single day of the year, and that's why the Doctor's like.
That's probably why he's dead-eyed. God. And then when he like takes a sip of the tea and just throws it on the floor, and Francine's like, "Fuck's sake!" He probably does that every day as well. Gets the bell and rings it. It's all. it's all very showmany, which I think this master or this version of the master definitely is a showman, and that is also what plays into his downfall a lot.
Yeah.
Which is always what happens when you've got a villain. They always do too much of what they're good at, and then it always comes
hosted by their own petard.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it is one of the most iconic scenes, definitely of the episode, definitely of the series, and probably of all of Russell T Davies's Who, maybe all of Doctor Who, New Who at least. For now, I'd say. But well, I mean, there's a number of things, but it's probably not one that people will think of. But when you say, "Oh, what about that one?" They're like, "Oh, yeah, that'll be up there." But it's not like a death or a regeneration, so it won't get a lot of looking to a lot of the moments. But I do think it's one of definitely the best part of the episode. Right at the start, yeah. So what is your final positive?
I've put David Tennant in the Master's death scene.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
I think he's genuinely so good. Like, it says a lot, maybe, that those are literally all the positives I had, and that was what I thought of. But I basically gave it to him for that scream he gives when he's like, "Oh, in the Master's body."
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, you're the last of the Time Lords." The title makes sense now. Who could have guessed that was going to happen with a title like that? But yeah, I just thought he was phenomenal in that scene when he's like begging him not to force himself, not to regenerate, and everything with that, which is already interesting enough lore that a Time Lord can be like, you know what, not gonna, bye.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm head out.
Bye.
But yeah, just his little cry face, poor little cry face, David Tennant, and yeah, just that wailing scream. I was like, oh, that was so well done.
Yeah,
it just felt like pure grief that maybe he kind of. It feels like he must have gone through some shit in real life. Somehow must have screamed like that. I just thought it was a fantastic little bit of acting. So I just wanted to shout it out, really, because for me, that was like a really emotional part of the episode. I was like, oh, damn, shit. Yeah. It really did feel like David Tennant felt like a 40-year long relationship between the Master and the Doctor in that moment. Obviously, it's a lot longer for them in real life, but for an audience, for him to be all alone again, as we, like, kind of going back to the man that we first met in Rose, I thought that was a really great kind of bit of acting. So yeah, I wanted to shout that out, really, because I thought that was one of the most emotional parts of the episode, and I thought David Tennant was fantastic in that little sequence.
Big Ian Beale, I've got nothing left vibes.
I've got nothing left.
And he goes, ah! Yeah, it's that. It's just that, but Doctor Who.
It is basically that, yeah. Well, now you've ruined it for me, and I'm going to take it off.
My sort of fourth positive is the Master's death scene as a whole. I think they both give pretty good performances. Well, so is everyone from Lucy shooting him onto the pyre being burnt, I guess. All of that's great. You do see, and that's what I mean, is like I wanted to see more of Ten and the Master together in the same room.
That was my big surprise, I think, of this entire story, is that they don't really share that many scenes together.
No, they do one at the end of, well, they normal 10th Doctor and the Master is what I want, not old frail 10th Doctor that doesn't do anything. Because they've got a bit more, but there's nothing really there. But with normal 10th Doctor, you've only got the scene at the end of the last episode, and then the scenes at the end of this episode. And I wanted more, which I'm glad we do get eventually. But considering they've not sort of, this is the first time we've seen the Master since Classic Who, I kind of want them more of the interaction between them. But saying that, I think you do feel that although you don't see them on screen together a lot of, you do get the sense that they have spent and they have a big history together in that death scene, which they do from Classic Who. But obviously, as a kid watching this, most kids aren't gonna see Classic Who, let alone the specific Master episodes. So it's good to sort of see that there's you get that history and you get that sense of a relationship without having to know the backstory. And it helps that both the actors are really good and they really play off each other. It's just unfortunate they're not doing it a bit more often.
Or if he is, he's in old man makeup, or he's Dobby.
CGI. So my sort of third one is the Topless Reveal. Although, as we pointed out, it's kind of obvious who they're going to be now that you're rewatching it. I think it's still, especially in this episode, there's still enough for you to like kind of not know who they're on about.
Yeah, I think the practical effect of the thing is really impressive.
Yeah, I've always thought it was CGI, but I was looking at it, I was like, that is gross. I was like, that's horrible, real. Yeah. And I'm like, that's disgusting. And that's kind of what put it over the edge, is just the face in the sphere. It looked very like child-esque in Children of Earth, when they're like hooked up to the monsters with the gas mask thing on it. It looked like similar to that. And it was just grim. I was like, oh, that's just horrible. But I like that doing that has like made them insane. Like, yeah, we're gonna kill you because it's fun to kill you all. And to think it was that little child that was like so like innocent and naive to then come out and be like, hey, I know you, now I'm going to murder you and your family. Soz. I think they're a good idea, and I think it's always when it's the one-off villains, they always end up being the best villains, because you're never going to see them again, and then they're never going to have a chance to sort of ruin that legacy. So I do think that although they're technically foot soldiers in the grand scheme of things, I do think the scene with Martha sort of explaining who they are adds a depth that we don't really get with other foot soldiers, looking at the pig slaves. But yeah, I like the design. I like the grossness of the face, the fact that it's the face that they kept, and they're very Dalek-esque in the fact that they're just like a thing in a machine. It's just great. I think it's excellent how it's done. And it's just not obvious enough that you could be like, who is it? But obviously once you do know who it is, you're like, oh yeah, there you go. That's who your house is going to fall in. Sorry.
I think is that fireworks going off?
It might also be fireworks. It is bonfire night when we're recording this, so there could be fireworks.
So if that's picking up on the mic, I apologize. Because even that, people are being shot outside. Some bit.
Oh, who knows?
Let's find out.
But yeah, the Doctor Fane, great. Not really sad we don't get to see him again, because I feel if we see him again, it would take away from it. Although if they could make the design maybe it's based off something else in the future, I'm sure
they're trapped at the end of the universe. So if they just go to the end of the universe,
or they could somehow, after spending time with the Master, they'll know how to do it. Unless maybe, but I highly doubt it. But it would be cool to see them again. Yes, so that is kind of the end of the positives. I want to talk about something that I'm very in the middle of the road of.
Okay.
The ending.
Right.
So is this one of your negatives? I'm going to assume it is.
It depends what you mean by the ending. Like the resolution?
Yes.
Yes.
The Jesus, yeah. So
Doctor.
First of all, I wrote, the ending makes sense. They've used the Archangel Network against him. That's fine. I was like, oh, but how is it reversing the Doctor's age? That's where it got me. And I was like, huh? Which I think is the bit where a lot of people struggle with, and it's fair enough. Because often I would defend it, but it probably leans more into the negative now, because it's like it just doesn't make sense. There's no precedent for it.
Yeah. It's the most technobabble I think Doctor Who's ever technobabbled.
Yes.
And he's like, I've integrated myself into the matrices. I'm like, what does that fucking mean, sir?
Yeah.
That's not an explanation.
Like they needed to, like, I don't know, show something that says the Master was using it to keep himself youthful or something like that, to then at least imply that it can keep you young, like a fountain of youth type thing. But it doesn't do that. I get, everyone thinking Doctor at the same time would have an impact of some kind on the telepathic network.
In Martha's story, she described him when he was looking like David Tennant or something, when he was looking younger. So that's who they picture when they're thinking Doctor or something, and then that manifests or something. I don't know. Maybe something like that could have helped, but
so the way they get there and the sort of the methodology makes sense. Everyone thinks the same thing at the same time, and it will disrupt the Master's plan. However, it's the outcome, but how does that make the Doctor young?
Yeah,
again?
It is more the execution for me.
And how does it kill it? How does it destroy Cage at the same time as well? By the way, that Cage just evaporates, and it's like, oh, hello.
And it grows his suit back as well, which is nice.
Yeah, and then he can use the Force to throw the laser screwdriver away.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that happened. I was like, oh wow.
Okay. Yeah, so
I'll kill them, bitch. Bitch, no.
You hit me, I'll whack it out your hand.
Why you hitting yourself? Why you hitting yourself?
Yeah. So I'm like, I was always a defender of sort of the ending. So I'm like, it does have the effect of it being like a big hero return type thing, similar to like a Thor landing in Infinity War type scene. But that's all set up in how he managed to do that and how he gets there. Whereas this, it's like, okay, but he was like a 900-year-old egg. How the hell has he just turned back into David Tennant? You know, it's not
fair. Why is he hot again?
Yeah, how dare he? I wanted Series 4 with Eggman.
Can you imagine? Like Donna finds him, that's the Doctor, and he's an Eggman. Actually, I'm good, thanks.
I'll stop looking. I'll stop. Sorry.
Promise.
But yeah, I mean, it's tricky, but it's probably going to lean more into the negatives. Although I like the feel of the scene, and I like the sort of the uplifting mood it gives and everything, and how the master cowers from him and that kind of stuff. Yeah, but I just don't like the technical stuff behind it. I think it's similar to or in a more extreme than the paradox machine from last week. I think this is more.
We'll talk about that too.
Yeah, this needed more explanation than that, I felt. Mm-hmm. Anything else to say on the finale then, on the resolutions?
So this was like my second negative, really. I kind of put it all, like everything just gets undone, like the year is just gone. Apart from the poor ass president, like he's just
after the president died.
He's like, the Doctor's like, oh, back to normal. I was like, not for the president. He's dead.
President's dead. Yay!
We've just seen the president killed on live television. Like, so what? Do they remember what killed him, or what's going on?
And then aren't the cameras still rolling as well? Because in the end of time, I'm pretty sure, don't they say that the whole world saw Lucy shoot Saxon as well?
I don't know.
Because I think they think that she's effectively just killed the Prime Minister of Great Britain. She hasn't stopped the Master. Right. She's killed the Prime Minister, which is why she's in prison. In the end of time. So I think they're like still rolling, and there's all this technical stuff being. It's like, oh yeah, everything's fine, guys. Cameras are still on them. It's a bit weird.
But that kind of gets undone. Like we have a lovely scene with the Master like dying and getting burnt and stuff, and then like 5 minutes later they have the shot of the ring falling out. It's like, just like, come on, man.
Yeah, but you know that if they didn't do that and then he came back and they're like, there was a ring at the fire, people were like, oh, I wasn't there, you know.
Yeah, it is lose-lose, I understand that. But for the impact of this episode, I'd rather than retroactively say, but this is how he survived, because that's just what the Master does anyway.
I suppose.
Then ruin that scene literally 5 minutes later, for me anyway. And the Jesus Doctor just soaring through the air. Ooh. Especially when they do Jesus imagery in the very next episode again, when the angels like lift him up and he's like, oh. I'm just like, please no. I understand how that's the solution, and I don't necessarily mind that. Although it still just feel like, then what was the point of this being an extra long episode? Like her whole year to make this fake weapon. I'd rather take her a year. Let's say, in 6 months you did. I don't know. It is more so the execution. I'm just a bit like, and I cringe at them all going, Doctor, Doctor. Like, you're thinking it. You don't need to say it. And especially when they pan back to people saying it again, like Jack says it twice. I'm like, we know.
I get it. Too many slices.
Joining in and everything, but just like some people surely are going to be asleep across the world. Like this random woman talked to us one night
everywhere.
Yes, I'm sure. Yes, time zones no longer are a thing. If this random woman just came and told me so about the Doctor and said, "Oh, on this day you must do," I was like, "Fuck you! I'm going to bed."
Shut up! I get killed almost every day.
My family are all dead, woman. But it's just I don't know how else they could have done it. I really don't like how it's. I mean, it just feels it's very cheesy to me.
It's so they could to get out of it, instead of Martha going to find a weapon to kill the Master, because that's obviously the MacGuffin. They could have just said, I've gone to find a weapon, but she's actually gone to find something to counteract the aging of the Doctor, so that when she gets onto the Valiant, they somehow de-age him, and then you can still have the whole Jesus thing and whatever, because that could be an effect of the regeneration that's happening to him because of this thing that he's been given. But no.
No.
I'll email Russell next time and say, hey, you should have done this, and I'll get blocked. So
yeah, that's a good idea. Do that. Just like everything, kind of a lot of it just getting undone just like that. Only a few people properly remembering it, and the Jesus Doctor, that whole resolution, not my favorite, especially after 3-part story. That's a lot of build up to David Tennant being Jesus. And, I'm sure he'd make a great Jesus. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure he is Jesus to a lot of people. But
yeah, same. I've got a little shrine to him. No, it's effectively the ending of "It was all a dream." It's the same thing, really, except for others it wasn't, which again is the same.
I know that's because Russell's kind of thing that he always told writers was, if you make something happen, you need to put it back in the bottle by the end. Because he didn't want like long-term things. Obviously, that would probably make things quite complex to keep writing. So I know that's just like his writing style. Yeah. But in this case, I'm a bit like, after 3 parts, you're already a year ahead of time. You kept that. Why can't you just do this? But it's fine. Whatever. So I'm not a huge fan of like the resolution stuff, but I like all the build up to it. So I'm not going to like try and take much away from that. But yeah, that was one of my big like.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So my sort of first negative, well, I guess it's my second after the resolution. There's a lot of conveniences, which I feel we've said a lot this series. Mm-hmm. So how convenient was it that it was Crete in the Topless Reveal?
Now that I have moaned about that. They did actually explain that.
Did they?
Because I don't think it was Crete's head. They said, we all share our memories. The sky is which is still shit.
Maybe.
Don't get me wrong. He does say that. So I don't think it's necessarily that's Crete's head. They just all share each other.
Yeah, but I always
still thought, which I still think is a bit shit.
I always thought it was a case of this head was still Crete, but it was like we as in myself, this head, and the boy share the memories.
Right.
So like I would say,
okay, maybe
if I was being dramatic, I'd say that 12-year-old Connor, if we were talking about him, I'd be like, oh, we share the same memories type thing as maybe that's all how
he's the top cafe, not a human.
Yeah, that's how I've always interpreted it.
But yeah, that is still a convenience. Yeah,
but yeah, it's either way.
I have moaned about that multiple times, so people know how I feel.
Yeah. Again, thank God it was only one Topless Reveal that came down and tried to get Tom when he fired his gun, and not more than one. Thank God Martha was at TV to watch the Doctor get aged again. Mm-hmm. What else was there? Oh, there was just quite a couple where it was like it all just felt a bit like, oh, thank God they're there. Oh, it's a good thing they're there. Good thing
thank God Tom fancied Martha, so he tried to save her from Master.
Oh yeah, exactly. Thank God Tom came out and died. But it's like there's just a number of things where, and like some of them they explain, like going to Professor Doherty and being like, hey, I need your help. No, your enemy. That's explained in a good way. Whereas the others,
I like that. Yeah.
The others like, oh, it's just very convenient that these things happen to you. It's very convenient that Tom didn't go, oh yeah, we are looking for, or we're here on patrol or something. It's a good thing he only talks about himself and not Martha next to him. Else that would have blown a cover, because he doesn't know at that point that they can't see her. So it's just a number of things where it's like they just sort of put them in and they go, oh yeah, okay, it's fine, that just happened, which I can forgive at the start of the story, when we arrive and it all kicks off or that kind of stuff, because we wouldn't be dropped into the story 2 months before anything happened. But when it's happening to the characters, it's all very, very convenient. And at least sort of in series 4, those conveniences can be put aside because it's kind of written as Doctor and Donna find each other again and all these convenient things happen. They saw Wilf and all that kind of stuff. That's all kind of written into the story.
Yeah.
Which is maybe after realizing that they did quite a few conveniences this season, they were like, oh, we need to do a bit more of getting around them and making them seem natural.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was just quite a few that made me think, oh, again, it's just a bit. And
another one.
And then when they're like, oh, it's too late to go across London now. It's filled with wild dogs. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Did they say that?
Yeah.
I must have missed that line.
They're a wild dog. And I'm like, I'm sorry, they're a flying Topless Reveal around and you're worried about wild dogs. I was like,
show the Topless Reveal would hunt the dogs for sport.
I mean, maybe, and then this all ties into maybe that was because Martha was feeding her the information saying we're going to be here. So tell the Master I'm going to be there. But did Martha need to be at the Valiant for the countdown to 0? Not really.
No.
Because they would have done everything at the same time. Because if she is supposed to be meeting the Master there, why does she then hide under the coats on the stairs when he comes knocking? if she's supposed to go out and meet him? And then why isn't Tom in on the, it's just a mess. If you just, I keep picking at things and they just keep unraveling, which is unfortunate. But yeah, with the wild dogs thing, just say there are more Toclafane patrols at night.
Yeah.
Just say London's swarming with Toclafane. We'll have to wait until the morning. Something like that. You don't need to be like, oh, what wild dogs? What wild dogs?
Or cut someone being killed by wild dogs.
Yeah.
That's absolutely hilarious.
It's like,
wasn't that like a game show on Saturday night on BBC One at some point?
Wild dogs?
You like run away from you were like hunted by dogs or something.
Maybe.
I swear that was a thing that was on
Surely
before
not.
Doctor Who before. So it was like Don't Scare the Hare, and then there was this other show.
Maybe. Look, maybe that's some deep lore.
Or maybe that was ITV. I don't know.
Oh, probably
that's
an ITV show.
I'm gonna be doing a deep dive trying to find that show.
Yeah, but I guess it kind of stinks of Russell going, it's the apocalypse. It's post-apocalyptic, lore. What else is post-apocalyptic? I know. Wild dogs running around the place.
Yes, that's the end of the world. Release the Hounds. It was a thing.
Oh, there you go. God's sake.
And it was hosted by that guy, Matt Edmondson, whatever his name is.
Oh, right. Yeah. He's a DJ / radio / apprentice. You're fired.
And are you ready for this?
Oh, Christ.
Do you want to know who the original presenter was?
Bradley Walsh.
It's only Ruddy Bloody Reggie Yates.
Oh, no. It all links.
Yes.
That's why he was in the series. He was just in the series for the one joke that nobody got.
This is why they didn't bring him back for the 50th anniversary, because he was busy doing Release the Hounds.
God's sake. Right. Okay. Well, conveniences. Convenience.
How convenient.
Literally. Oh, okay. So that was my first negative / second. Okay. What is your first / third second?
My first one, yeah.
Yeah.
This is my first, technically. I've already talked about it briefly already, but the Master and the Toclafane having a new grand plan just felt a bit meh to me. I never really felt the stakes of it. Like, oh, we're gonna conquer the universe, I guess, and we're gonna kill our ancestors, I guess, because why not? Got a paradox machine, why not? And I know the Master likes chaos and everything, and that's something he'd work towards. But at this point, he's already won. He's already ruling Earth, and that was like his goal. So it just felt like, okay, we have a Master who's won, but also I need something for them to kind of stop, and I need a countdown for them to kind of get something done by. So I guess I need the Master to just do this. For me, I never really felt the stakes of that, because they've been building towards the end of the Sound of Drums. I'm like, oh shit, the world's over. Like, what do they do now? It could have been like an end game level of them just trying to undo what has already been done. So for him to just be like, and now I'm gonna just do this, I guess. For me, it felt a bit because they'd already built up another plan throughout these first 2 episodes. For him to then be like, and now this is actually what we're building towards. I'm like, well, what was the point of before then? So for me, it was a bit weird, and I just felt like either seeing the Master like building up his empire, or just sticking with this is the Master who's won was more interesting than just being like, and now I'm just not achieved what I wanted to do yet again.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing for me. I just like, not really feeling these stakes.
Yeah, because I think at one point he's like, he's not going to stop till there was a new Gallifrey in the heavens, and I was like,
yeah,
what?
Okay.
So what do you want to do? I don't get. So you trying to bring back the Time Lords? Is that your end game here, or are you just trying to? Do you want the human race to be? I don't know where he's gone with it. To sort of make that line, I don't know what he's expecting. But hey, he does get to see Gallifrey in the heavens soon. So
in a couple of years.
So he did stop after that. So
you ran away from it originally.
There you go.
You want to bring it back? What do you want?
To be fair, he ran away from the Time War, not Gallifrey. So
yeah, and then Gallifrey burned. No, bring it back. How dare you?
Now, and then he's going to burn it again.
Yes.
Yeah, I do agree that it does feel like it's like a 2-step plan, but we were only ever told the first step in the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel if his plan was always to, I don't know, conquer the universe, and he made that clear to start with. But I get what you mean. It could have been good to see like a ruler master, similar to like the Monk trilogy in series 10, where the world is under control. That kind of thing would have been good to see. But hey, what can you do? So sort of my second / third, my final really, is the flashbacks.
Yes, I did make a note of that.
the number of flashbacks in this episode is ridiculous.
Just before Jesus Doctor, I put so many flashbacks.
Well, it's like, so I've got a couple, right? It's when the Masters, or when Martha like remembers what the Doctor said. Happens a couple of times. So I'm like, okay. And then like just it happens a third time when she's explaining. I'm like, why? Why are we seeing this old man whisper into Martha's ear 4 times this episode? You don't need to do that. Maybe show it once at the start to say, I was told something, and then once at the end to reveal what was said. But you don't need to keep saying it. Not to mention where she's like, oh, I loved someone once, and then there's like a flashback of the kiss from like the first episode, and then some other flashbacks. I think it's to the episode before, isn't it? But there's also other flashbacks to the episode before, which we just watched. And I was like, we know what this is. We saw this last week.
I told everyone a story. That's all. I'm like, this is the previous scene. And you're flashing back to it?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. So there was just a lot. It felt like they were padding for time in this one, because you don't need to do it. You could just say, oh, yeah, the Doctor said this, and then say it.
Yeah, like the plan to steal his laser screwdriver. Like, in a year, you didn't realize that that's isomorphic.
Yeah, I know. So it's just there's just a bit too much padding, I think. There, it's as if they sort of didn't have enough for this episode, which they might not have. Which I think tells a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But hey, what can you do? We had a massive chat about flashbacks a couple of weeks ago. So if you want to go and read our extensive thoughts on
the Utopia one,
flashbacks, watch Utopia. So that rant should probably be better served in here than it was in Utopia. Probably, because there's a lot more in this than there was.
Yeah, little did we know.
Yeah,
Coco the clown and back watching Utopia. Yeah.
Oh Christ, but yeah. So I mean, that's probably quite nitpicky. But when it's almost like every single scene with Martha is a flashback, I'm like, come on, we don't need to keep saying this, especially if it's the same thing you keep flashing back to. But never mind. So what is your final negative?
Yes. It's a returning hit from last week, folks. It's the Paradox machine. I was hoping for an explanation. They told us why they needed it.
Yeah.
And they showed us him
making it.
Yeah, him going, but
I did it. Yeah.
There you go. I made one. And just it's just such a big part of the story, and they just never make any attempt to explain it. If you're gonna flashback to him actually explaining what that is and what he's doing.
Yeah.
You give us all the I've patched into the mainframe matrices and I'm gonna
just
be
give
Jesus
us something
now.
like that. Yeah.
Like give us even that. I'd have been like, okay, at least you tried to explain it, but you don't even try. And like, do you even know what that is? So I like the idea of it. I like the concept of the Topgraphane killing their ancestors, but they can still survive because of this thing. But just explain what it is, because that's your kind of big end game plan here. And I thought I'd bring it up again because it
hammer the point home,
and it went once again unexplained. It's like if they'd explained it in this one, like, okay, still too late, but fair enough, at least they get an explanation. But they didn't. It feels like they thought they did. But
yes, I think that's the case. Is they wrote it thinking, yeah, that'll be enough.
I feel like it's like written at 4 a.m. Like, okay, that's the explanation done. Then they forgot there wasn't actually one.
Yeah.
Like when you read your work back and oh god, I've missed like a whole sentence there. What am I doing?
Yeah.
Maybe it was that kind of situation. I don't know. I mean, I think the first draft of this was written in 4 days, so maybe it was something like that. But
Classic Russell.
Best boy, can't wait for you to come back. So yeah, I was a bit, come on, man, just give me something, and not even a jot. So yeah,
understandable. I can't defend it, to be fair. I mean, I don't care as much about it as yourself, just because I'm like, yeah, fine, whatever, it's a thing, and I just leave it just because I don't have the energy to be annoyed at.
You used up your energy at the flashbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Although I think my additional negative, although I kind of have a couple, I think it's a missed opportunity that we're just told what Martha did instead of shown. It would have been much better if the episode was Martha traveling the world and doing that, and then the end be the end, rather than her just slowly making her way across England. Not even the whole of England, just from the south south coast to London.
Yeah.
I think it would, because there's so much in there that's like, oh, I saw everything on fire. I was the only one to get out of Japan. I saw the master on Mount Rushmore, all that kind of stuff. So that would have been really cool to see, but we don't see any of it. They did make a book, and you can read the book, but the book isn't very good. It's like fine, but it kind of doesn't, it also doesn't, it's billed as the story of Martha, but it also only covers like one or two things. Considering she went around the globe, it kind of skips over a lot as well. So they're having a third crack at this with Big Finish coming up. So I think they'll probably do a lot more in that one for what's sort of said here. So at least we'll get some audio to hear. And then if you shut your eyes, maybe you'll be able to visualize it. But it may also be a budget thing, is they didn't want to. It's easier to say I saw all this destruction and all this stuff than showing it.
Get rid of Lazarus Experiment or 42.
Yeah, literally.
Just make another episode with Martha.
Yeah, which is a shame, because I think seeing her overcome a lot of the challenges and a lot of the things that she had to overcome would have definitely helped, especially at the time, helped her character and companion become more of a favourite, because I think even now she's not necessarily the favourite of the 10th Doctor's companions.
At the time, people were still very salty about Rose, I think, leaving.
Yeah, so I think seeing this rather than seeing Martha come back and then cower under some coats, I think was a missed opportunity. But yeah, and then my sort of other one is the CGI for the Egg Doctor isn't the best. The face, to be fair, isn't the worst thing. It's more
when he speaks, it's a bit like, ooh.
Yeah, when he speaks in the hands, you can kind of see the CGI, but when his face is there, it's fine. But just hasn't aged well, really.
No, ironically.
Unfortunately.
He aged well.
It does look like it's 900-year-old CGI, I guess.
Savage. Yeah. That was weird, wasn't it, doing that?
Yeah, and same as last week, it was still the same editing where
David Tennant.
He had to do all this, and they keep cutting to it. I'm like, is this enough? I literally can't watch this because it's too cringe. Please, just stop. And then when they just started showing his clothes or the screw jobs, like, okay, good, it's coming to the end now.
I will say, for me, I mean, as weird as it is, I'd rather they just kept him old and then just de-aged him anyway, because he might as well have, especially with the CGI and stuff. And it's not like he even gets that much screen time before he gets turned back anyway. You might as well not bothered. But it's almost worth it for the Master's face when he sees him. And he's like,
because I think there's a moment where
hilarious.
There's a moment where the Master like literally thinks he's killed him, because you see the sort of look in his eye. Was like, oh, have I fucked this? Is he dead? Is this it? And then he sees him like pop out, and it's like, oh, and then there's like received Martha Jones, and you can't even see the Doctor. He's on the floor. She's not going to know what it is. You didn't move the camera to point to him.
Yeah.
Never mind. So there's just, for me, there's a load of little nitpicks in this, which unfortunately all culminate into one thing, sadly. Have you got any other points to make before we move on to the fun facts?
Yeah, to balance it out, I really enjoyed the music.
Yes.
I liked the silence when the Master dies, and then the music at his pyre and stuff is really good.
Yeah.
And then to counteract that somewhat, I feel like, what was the point in bringing Jack back when he does nothing?
He's there to get to the TARDIS and shoot it.
Yeah. Oh, great. Because they could have just not had that need to be a thing.
And I think this is the one out of like the 3-part where I've not put the trio as one of the best bits, because they don't have any up until the last scene, which we didn't even speak about, where he reveals he's the face of Bo. Up until that scene, they haven't been in the same. Well,
that's their first scene together.
So I feel that, and that's why I sort of said that, I want to see more. I wanted to see more with this 3. It's a shame that they were only in this 3-parter, because I think they are a good trio. And obviously Martha does go into Torchwood in series 2, which is set after this, and they do all return next series anyway. But it does feel like they were like, we have a man that can't die. How do we deal with that? How do we take him out of the story? They
had to do so much with Martha to get her to where she needed to be, and they had to do so much with the Master to like wrap up that side of things. There just wasn't really much room for everyone else, I feel.
Yeah, it felt like, because he's like, maybe in my head canon, Jack spent the first 100 days trying to piss everybody off and break out and kill people, that he eventually just gave up because he couldn't do anything, and he just kept killing him and chaining him up and killing him and chaining him up.
I think, his role in things, and the problem with it is made crystal clear when Martha's like, but with 14 satellites. And then Master's like, what? And Jack's line is, the Archangel Network. I'm like, yes, Martha's basically just said,
yeah, we know that.
You don't need to be here, Jack. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
they just needed to give you a line. She hasn't spoken in 15 minutes.
I know. And I think that's a shame because obviously he's a character I like, and I do think he's underused in this one. But at the same time, you know, if you put him with Martha, it's going to lessen the experience and the development Martha's had to have. You know, if you put him in the serving room, you know, with serving the master, you know, that's not what Jack's going to do. He's not going to just willfully do that. So the only thing you can do is chain him up and be like, yeah, he's stuck there, he can't come out because we've got guards that will just shoot him.
Yeah. It's just a shame after 2 years of him being away, he ultimately doesn't do all that much, really.
No. But hey, he had to go back. He had to go back. At least he had some time to think about going back to Torchwood. So
he got a nice revelation, and he got a spin-off show. So
yeah,
off you go.
Even though when he comes back, they treat him like he's been back. He's been gone for like 5 years. You left us like it was 3 days at most. Come on, relax.
He's like, you have no idea how long I was gone. Actually,
yeah. I died like 4 times whilst I was away.
Gone even longer than you think. Actually.
Hope you enjoyed Everest. But yeah, that's fair enough. I don't think I really have too much else. I don't know why the master says it's his first blood when he's going to kill Martha. Does he mean the first blood of his empire? Maybe, because he just killed Tom like 2 minutes beforehand. Also, Tom's death is ridiculous. He just runs and points the gun. No! Shoot him. Shoot him. No one saw you coming. Just lean out the door.
Right between the eyes. Yeah.
But no, he just yells no and runs at him. And then to be fair, I do like the idea of or the sort of explanation of what Utopia was in the end.
Yeah.
I like the sort of grimness of that. Again, I much rather would have wanted to see that than countless flashbacks of old man Doctor whispering in Martha's ear.
Yeah, maybe would have given Lucy a bit more to do as well if we actually saw those flashbacks.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And so it can sort of show the impact that the travel had and why she stays with him. Because that obviously is a B plot, which I think you only notice on rewatch, is the sort of impact that the Masters had on Lucy, especially in the negative sense, and why she killed him. Because if you're not paying attention to that, it might be a bit of like, oh, she's killed him, when all you've really seen is her, you know, with him normally. But I think that's a nice story detail though, rather than a nitpick, because I like that it gives you something else to go and look at.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So that's good. Fun facts. Let's have some fun before we get to the ratings.
I'm dreading your rating. Okay. So this is the second continuous finale to end with the Doctor saying "what" in confusion, obviously, following the end of Doomsday, because that ends up being a bit of a thing.
Although it then leaves, and then it's like, oops, 5th Doctor time, baby.
Yeah. Oh wait, we need to slip in the Children Need Special. Hang on.
Yeah.
This episode had the rare occurrence of having 2 directors. Colin Teague, who's the only one credited, injured himself falling down some stairs, so Graham Harper had to finish off some of the Martha scenes uncredited.
Ah.
Good old Graham. 2 versions of the episode exist, the full 51-minute version and a 47-minute edit. Most notably, the Soul 3 post-title introduction to Earth, the Master singing and dancing to I Can't Decide, and some dialogue between Martha and the Resistance members being cut. Presently, the only way to purchase the episode digitally is the 47-minute version, with the full version only available on BBC iPlayer and on DVD and Blu-ray. Netflix did get the full version in 2020, but the show has since left the service.
In America as well, isn't the ending changed as to who shoots the Master? I remember hearing that. I might be wrong. I think there's something. I think there's some confusion as to how the Master gets shot. I think, but I might just read something from someone.
There might be a lost edit, lost time now.
Maybe somebody wasn't actually paying attention, and they were just like, "Whoa, what happened?" And then they didn't realize. But
I bet Netflix were like, finally, we've got the rights to the songs. We can use that scene again. And
we're taking it back, bitch.
We're taking Doctor Who off Netflix now. Oh, okay.
Okay, bye.
Russell T Davies left the scene where a woman picks up the Master's ring for a future showrunner to bring the Master back, not knowing at the time that he'd go on to use the setup himself in the End of Time Part 1. So why not? The Doctor states yes. The Doctor states a desire to meet Agatha Christie at the end of the episode, which he does next series. Hooray! Yay. Foreshadowing, maybe. Or maybe that's like, actually, that would be a good idea. Put that down.
He wrote it and went, I'll keep that for later.
Hang on a minute. Yeah. Especially because he did have the actress in mind when he's like casting Agatha. Like,
there you go.
I think he wrote it for her, so maybe he just had that idea. Last of the Time Lords had previously been a title of one of the aborted big screen adaptations of the series between 1989 and 2005. A poster featuring the title even appeared in some film trade publications. So try and track those down, folks. This is the final episode to credit the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, for help co-funding the series. While they were still involved in Series 4, they went uncredited. So sorry about it.
Sauce Canada.
The 2005 Big Finish story Singularity, starring Peter Davison as the Fifth Doctor, shared some elements with this story. The Toclophane had very similar origins to the Somnus Foundation, and technology was also used to focus the collective psychic energy of humanity, much like the satellites. Technology. While Ross T. Davies tried to backpedal on the face of Bo reveal in this story on the DVD commentary, producer Julie Gardner, as well as David Tennant and John Barrowman, all believe Jack is destined to become the face of Bo. So screw you, RTD.
So what did Russell want? What did he say then? Just no?
He just went back to being like, I mean, it could
maybe.
Either way.
Yeah, well, shut up, Russell.
No.
We know you're wrong.
In a deleted scene, Jack recites the 21st century is when it all changes tortured monologue. So they really wanted to reference that, but it ended up on the cutting room floor in both instances.
I wish they did. I reckon that would have been a nice little. But
yeah, it would have been funny. The woman's hand picking up the ring belonged to production manager Tracy Simpson, which is nice. So got a little Doctor Who debut of her hand. This is the only Russ T. Davies era finale to not feature the Daleks outside of a brief mention. So there you go.
All right.
Leo was originally in the scene when Martha returns to Britain and introduced her to Tom Milligan. However, Reggie Yates' schedule meant he could only film for one day.
God's sake. And they used that one day to put him in a window.
They used that one day to give him 3 seconds and no lines. So that was worth it.
What a waste of money.
Yeah, absolute waste of time.
God's sake.
I mentioned this earlier. The first draft of the script was written in 4 days. Downing Street originally played a large role in the story, serving as a location for the last piece of the decoy chemical. At this stage, Tom was revealed to be a traitor, being killed after betraying Martha to the Master. These elements were both changed when Professor Doherty was written into the script. So Lucifer was nearly a traitor.
Oh.
And then
he died either way.
So. Then he rewrote it. So. But he didn't though, did he?
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
Because he gets engaged to her and then they break up so she can marry Mickey. So that's fun.
Although in the Doctor Who lore, technically, if you take out Torchwood, they never do get engaged. It's only in Torchwood where there's that line. So the kids
will
never know.
In the End of Time Part 2.
Yeah, with Mickey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant, is that I don't think they're ever sort of referenced as being in the show.
She mentions him in the one.
Oh, there we go. Never mind then.
So his heart is destroyed.
Unlucky.
He's killed and then his heart
might
is
as well
broken.
have died.
Sorry about it. This episode marked the last regular use of the theme tune, first introduced in Rose, as a new version was used from Voyage of the Damned onwards. The original version was, however, still used for marketing. I really like the newer version, though.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
a lot more bass to it.
Nice.
And this is something I noticed and just found quite funny to end off on, because you talk about how I Can't Decide is like quite a popular part of the era and everything. It's kind of a big moment in the episode, and your favorite moment of the episode, in fact. And I just found it funny that the song starts at 2 minutes 13 seconds, so season 3 episode 13. I found it quite funny.
Nice. There you go.
Just something I noticed when I was watching it.
And then
those are your series 3 fun facts,
and
folks.
if you're a kid and you go and listen to that song on the Sisters album, there's some swearing in it, so that takes you by surprise. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, imagine all those kids are like, because I did see there was like a surge of popularity with that song after this episode aired. So there's a kids being like, oh, can I have this? And they buy you that, and it's like, oh god.
Yeah. There's a swear in this, mum.
No, I swear.
Oh, but excellent. There are some fun facts.
Great.
So it leaves one thing to do for this episode. What are you rating it out of 10?
I'm giving it a 7.5. I don't know about you.
I'm giving it a 6.
Okay, so that's what I gave Stand the Drums. So that's terrible.
Yeah, but I gave.
There's a bigger difference last week between us.
So
yeah.
So I mean, this is a 3%.
That is a big drop.
3-point drop. So
yeah, okay.
Compared to your 1.5.
Not ideal.
No.
That might be the biggest drop we've had from episode to episode before.
Probably, especially with it. especially with it being, it's definitely, I think, the biggest drop for a 2-parter or 3-parter.
Yeah.
But I think, does this put this on more of a level? Wow. What was Utopia? Utopia was 8.5 as well. So it's still less than that. So this is obviously the least rated one for the finale for me, which is a shame. But hey, at least one of us got more out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, I really quite enjoyed it until like the last resolution bit. So
I mean,
hooray!
I would still go back and rewatch this finale as a whole, and I still would enjoy it as a whole. But sort of thinking more about it and reviewing it is what has brought it down, I think, for me. So it's not like I would never say, oh, now it's not my favorite because I rewatched it and thought about it. You know, I can still put it on and just like let it wash over me. But for the purposes of this, unfortunately, it has dropped in my estimates. But hey, at least that means
it's bound to happen at some point.
Yeah, and it means that next season's finale might now go whoop and overtake it, which, because I think next season is quite a lot of people's favorite.
A lot of people like it, yeah,
for obvious reasons. So obviously the next episode is Voyage of the Damned, which is a Christmas special.
And I'm feeling Christmassy, so I'm excited for
this. I know, but it will come in 2 weeks' time. Because next week we'll be doing our Series 3 review. We always do them before the Christmas specials, even though I noticed that BBC iPlayer puts Voyage of the Damned at the end of Series 3 for this one.
I do normally. That's how I normally count it.
Is it interesting? They're always in between.
Your way, because I'm a good person.
I normally, because whenever they came on DVDs, they would always be at the start of the series rather.
They wanted the box sets out for Christmas, so they couldn't put the Christmas special on them, really.
Yeah. So it is what it is. But yeah, next week we'll be discussing Series 3 as a whole, what we liked about it, what we didn't like, how well the episodes fared against each other, how big the dip was mid-season for us.
It was quite the dip, wasn't it?
I imagine it's going to start off out, go way.
Yeah, Smith and Jones was so good. I mean, we have to talk. I suppose it's Runaway Bride, really, isn't it? Technically, the start for this. So.
Yeah.
That feels like yonks ago.
I know, I forget that, but it's because
it's like a different show.
Well, that's why I like the Christmas specials, because they're literally in. You don't have to see anything beforehand to watch the special, which is good. And I think that's how it should be, because you don't want to be tuning in on Christmas Day and be like, so what's happened? Oh, I've got to go and watch 3 series before I can just watch this one episode. But it's fine. So we will be back next week with Series 3, and obviously there'll also be Series 13 videos popping up on the channel, as well as perhaps some other ones that I've still got to work on. But yeah, that's it. If you did enjoy this episode after the Time Lords, by all means, let us know what you thought. Are you in Liam's camp? Are you in my camp? Do you absolutely despise the episode?
Loathed entirely.
Some people probably do. Some people probably think there is too much politics in it. Or, to be fair, they probably don't think there's any in this.
Because the dog's a man, so they don't.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
and the master's a man, so they don't think that.
There's no. That if this came out now, there would be outrage. There'd be uproar, outrage.
If anything, before like Matt Smith came out now, it'd be drawn to pieces.
Yeah, and it would be Doctor Who's too woke by showing domestic abuse in its episodes. Fuck off. But hey, it's fine. We'll see what happens when Russell comes back in 2 years.
I'm genuinely really scared about that side of things. But I'm also quite excited.
It'll expose
because of what he's done since Doctor Who, he's just absolutely going to just go to town with it, and I can't wait.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's it. We will be back for the review next week. See you then. Bye.
Bye.